Secretary, call the roll, please.
Charles Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Marvin Tao.
Here.
Francis Mesereau here. Mark Richmond.
Here.
Michael Schenkel.
Here.
Claudette Gonsolin.
Here.
Gerald Miro.
Here.
Jerry Trissini.
Here.
And Sharon Trapezio.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We'll move on to good and welfare. Have we had anybody signed up? Steve, can you come up?
Yeah.
Maureen, where's our timer? Where's the gavel?
I'll have that back.
I would like to appeal to the board to at least do a feasibility study to determine whether or not we can make our barbecue picnic area handicap accessible with a wheelchair ramp. I believe it can be done if we take a close look at it at a little cost to the association. Whether we get it done or not, I think that it's worth consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody else?
I didn't put my name down.
I'm afraid I can't let you go.
Yes,
Hold on. Is this on the barbecue area?
No.
No. Can we have Mr. Kaufman who
On the
wants to?
barbecue area, I have a neighbor who's power chair bound. She's able to take the walkway in her power chair and come have a barbecue with us. So I think it already is wheelchair accessible.
Why don't we look at that? To be honest with you, I've never looked at it. Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. We'll look at that.
This is in reference to the laundry rooms. When I go in the laundry rooms, you know, you remove the fluff from the, whatever you call it.
Which laundry room are you talking about specifically, please?
This is in Edelweiss.
Edelweiss, thank you.
On the third floor. And as I removed it, this, I don't know what you call them. Yeah, the lint holder, I'll call it. It was loose, and I looked down there, and it was absolutely jammed with dark fluff. And I looked in the other one, and it was the same. Now, I do believe this is a fire hazard, and I was wondering if the company ever comes and cleans this out, right through to the outside, because I know
That's the
that.
association's responsibility.
Oh, well, it definitely needs doing, and it really
I think what
scared
we'll do, we'll
me.
take note and we'll make sure that our housekeeping lady checks all the vents, checks all the vents and the filters when she opens the rooms in the morning.
The thing is, they're screwed down, you know.
We know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have housekeeping look at
I
that.
certainly appreciate
Thank you.
it because it is scary.
Good, thank you. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Yes, Joe.
Yeah, it should be part of a preventative maintenance plan, which we don't have.
Thank you, Joe. We understand that. Appreciate it.
What's that?
Preventive maintenance plan.
Yep, that's for sure.
Item number 5, waiving the reading of the minutes. Organizational meeting, ratifying all action taken, special meeting of January 27th and the special meeting of January 31st. Do I have a, sorry Marvin, just January 24th?
No, January 27th and July 31st.
January.
The organizational meeting, and we have to ratify the action taken because although our docs say no additional notice was needed to be given, the statute says that we should ratify those actions at the next board meeting. And the special meeting of January 27th and the special meeting of January 31 had to do with insurance matters and setting the date for the budget meeting.
I'd like to make a motion
I move that we accept the minutes of the meeting on 127 and the meeting on 131 as written.
And there is also another one of January 23rd. 24th, sorry. January 24th, right here. That's the organization. Yeah, sorry, that's the organizational meeting. Right. We have a motion. Do I have a seconder? Any opposing?
Who seconded it?
Marvin did?
You have to speak up, please.
Yeah. Any opposition? Motion carried. We'll go to number 6, which is the President's message. Not much to say, really. I don't want to take up a lot of time tonight, basically because we have a lot of things to cover. We're hoping to have our attorney here shortly to discuss a couple other legal issues. So let me just say that the only thing I'm going to say tonight is I'm going to either tell you about new committees that have been appointed or reappointed. We're going to start with sales and leasing. Our chair is Francis Misero. Our rules and regulation overview is Mr. Richard Goodhart. Our Wachovia Wells Fargo Loan Review Committee is headed and chaired by Mark Richmond. Our Fines Committee is chaired by Richard Goodhart. The Building Renovations Committee is chaired by Charles Fitzpatrick. The Energy Saving Program Committee is chaired by George Navarrete. Our Complaints and Concerns Oversight Committee is chaired by Steve Sirkin. And our Rules and Regulation Enforcement Committee is chaired by Marvin Tao. Any questions? I will tell you that the posting of the chairs and the committee members will be posted this week on our bulletin boards. Any questions?
Did you say finance committee?
No.
Or fines?
Fines. As you know, we've been in office exactly 1 month today, and it's been fun. We've had our focus basically has been positive. We are moving forward. We have some challenges in front of us, but I'm very confident that as a group, we will accomplish what we set out to do. Without further ado, I'd like to move on to a very important report, more important than the words that I can say, and pass the mic over to Dr. Mark Richmond for our Treasurer's report. Mr. Richmond.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our Treasury is not in bad shape. We have some money in the bank. We don't know how much yet because we haven't got the accounting procedures up to date and haven't got all checks outstanding and all deposits not counted for yet. But we're okay. And that takes care of the Treasurer's report insofar as our accounts and balances are concerned. A much more important thing happened a week ago yesterday, which, while not quite on the order of Neil Armstrong's giant leap for mankind, it's a significant step for International Village and everyone who lives in here, and I'd like to relate to you what happened on that particular day. On Monday last, I met with Mr. John Cassis at Wells Fargo Bank. I called the meeting because I had done my homework much faster than I thought I would be able to do it. And I wanted to get his view of where we were, and I wanted to try a few things out on him if he thought my view was appropriate. So at 11 o'clock we met. And I will sort of take you through the discussion as I went through it with him because it's enlightening as to, one, where we were, where we are, and where we're going. We started at 11 o'clock, and I explained quickly to him, John, I've had some discussion with him. We're on a first-name basis, and we get along pretty well, which is helpful. So it started out, John, where we are today is that we owe you $190,000 for past special assessment, if you will, I don't want to use the word misdeeds, but non-payments. We then spent, he wrote that down on a piece of paper, and he then spent, or we spent, the next hour to an hour and a half with me showing him why we were $190,000 in debt, where the numbers came from, and how I arrived at my conclusions. When we finished with that time period, he said, Mark, you've done one hell of a job. And without further ado, and seizing the opportunity to become offensive, I said, well, thank you very much, John. Now that you feel we've done a good job at International Village, for probably the first time in the last 3 years as far as you're concerned, I'd like to ask a favor of you. And he said, well, shoot. I said, okay, I'll shoot. I said, as you know, it's the beginning of the year, and we're $190,000 in debt to you, which sort of wipes us out on an operational basis and makes things difficult. So I'd like to ask a favor of you, since you think that I did such a good job. He said, shoot, again. I said, okay, I'll shoot. I said, what I can do is promise you that starting today, which was a week ago Monday, we are going to pay you every cent that the International Village payers of special assessments have been paying on a monthly basis, as opposed to the 80% that has been paid. We are going to pay you every special assessment pay down that we owe you from now on a timely basis, which has not happened in 3 years. For all those things, and because you considered that I did such a good job with my report, I want you to give us the benefit of 10 months respite, not maintain that we have to pay our note now, but promise you that we will pay it by December 1st. Without a moment's hesitation, he said, Mark, he said, because of the prodigious effort you have made in conquering this Herculean task, which I never thought you were capable of doing, and because of the transparency and financial clarity of your report, I am happy to accept your offer. What does that mean, ladies and gentlemen? It means that we now have a $250,000 loan, interest-free, for 10 months. It means that we have the ability to get by and not have to shell out a whole bunch of money, which puts a lot of constrictions on us at this point in time. So, and by the way, if you think that his words to me were his words, then there's a bridge that runs from Manhattan to Brooklyn that I'd like to take the opportunity to sell you after this event is over. We did well, and I did pretty good, I think. And we have some breathing room now, and we have an opportunity to get some things done without constriction. I think that's going to be very helpful, and hopefully we can get things accomplished. And if the lawyer, is he here yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. If Mr. Trapani is capable, I wish he were, because I was going to stick him with this one. If he was capable of doing what he we all hope he's capable of doing. And remember, he raised a lot of money for us last year, and if he can raise half of that, it will be a tremendous help. So that's the end of my message to you. It's been a good step for International Village. And I'll give you one other tidbit that's my own thought process. A lot of good things happened in this meeting with the bank. I was able to wheedle them into doing something that I wasn't sure they were going to do. Not only that, it was the first step in my mind for starting the process of the renegotiation of the note, which is due on February 27th, 2014. I've been thinking about that a lot, and I think there are things that have to be done, and I think I know how I want to go about doing it, and I will continue to do so. Thank you very much for your attention.
We're just going to open this table to questions to Dr. Richmond, and then we'll open the floor to questions. Marvin, you have a question? Go ahead, please.
Mark, at any time during your discussions, was there any mention of the balloon that's coming due in 2 years?
He brought it up, and I chose to tell him I didn't want to talk about it now, that I wanted to talk about it to him in a year after we have the time to do all the good things that I think we're going to do when our leverage will be infinitely better than it is now. He did suggest several things to me, which caused me to sit up a moment. One of them was that if we continued in the way we were going last year, and he stressed to me that I was primarily responsible for this, and I'm not telling you this to make me sound good, but it was a surprise to me. He told me that if we continued in the way we were going, he was going to call the note last fall. That would have been a disaster as far as I'm concerned. We'd have been running around looking for $3.5 million when nobody would lend us 20 cents, I think. So we've made headway with Mr. Cassis. And the good thing about the headway is that, and the thing I liked about dealing with him was he was able to deal with me man to man without having to go to committee. So that was a step in the right direction. We've made some progress, and we hope we can keep it going. That's all I can say.
Any other questions on the floor? Jerry, go ahead.
I'm trying to understand the $250,000 savings. Is that the fact that...
It's not a saving, Jerry.
What was the $250,000?
It is a delay in payment.
Delay in payment. So for 10 months, we don't have to pay them what we would have to pay them normally.
That's correct.
Is that
right now, Jerry, right now the balance of special assessment paydowns is $190,000 owed. We've covered everything up to the monthly special assessment issue for 2010 and the monthly special assessment issue for 2009. Those two things remain in the balance. And if you figure that it's going to be approximately $40,000 to $50,000 per year, we're going to owe another $80,000 to $100,000 over the $190,000. We have a moratorium on making any of those payments until December 1st.
It's a moratorium on the payments.
It's a moratorium on the payments. In other words, he's giving us an interest-free loan for 11 months.
The money but that money we did collect. Well, we've just used it.
We have not, we've collected no, the money is there, okay? $190,000 is what we owe.
Right, I understand. We owe the $190,000, and we owe it because we collected it, but we didn't pay it. That's the reason we owe it.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that $190,000 that we owe is somewhere.
Yes.
And that money was used for
Operations
instead of to reduce.
Well, you can put it in any place you want. We have a $500,000 reserve fund, if you will, that's sitting in CDs. You can put the money anywhere you want. In essence, the money is in the operating account.
Was.
It doesn't go directly to the special assessment. It doesn't.
Not yet. It will.
It didn't go.
That it will.
It's been used for operations.
Yes. We bought the ability to delay the payment of that amount of money for 11 months, okay?
Any other questions for Dr. Richmond? Yes, Mr. Gagne.
I'm not sure it's a question, but I think it's important.
Sorry, Eve. I have to pass it over to the director first. Thank you.
What are your plans for accumulating the funds to pay it in December?
What are the plans for accumulating the funds? We have no plans because we have no funds. The funds will come, if we're lucky, from Mr. Trapani's efforts on our behalf.
And on savings.
Okay, on savings. If none of those are forthcoming, we will take the money from the account, whatever account we choose to take it from, one of those CDs or what have you, and we must pay it by December 1st. Okay? Hopefully Trapani will perform for the next 10 months, and if we're lucky, he'll raise $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000.
Watch what you say, Mr. Richmond, Dr. Richmond. Mr. Trapani is in the audience right now.
Where's Mr. Trapani? You have been put on notice, Mr. Trapani. You now know what your task is for the forthcoming 11 months.
Only 200,000?
And no, 300. And I wish
Thank you, Mark.
I wish you all Godspeed, sir, in your effort.
Thank you, Mark. We'll have to move on. Thank you. Fantastic job.
How about the gentleman who had a question?
Yes, Mr. Gagne.
Well, the first thing is I'd rather have no plan to pay in December than no plan to pay tonight.
Cannot hear
Okay. I said the first thing I have to say is I'd rather have no plan.
Take that microphone.
No plan to pay in December.
I'd rather have no, to answer your question, I'd rather have no plan to pay in December than no plan to pay tonight. You know, that's not really a question, but first I want to thank Mark. But I had no doubt that wonderful things would happen with this new board. I love everybody on this board. Some I know very well, some I know less, but I like what's happening. There's going to be times, there's going to be a lot of discussions. We may be talking about caps one of these days, and I'm sure not everybody has the same opinion. But in fact, I like the way it's going, and I like the way people are working together. I talk on my behalf and my wife's behalf. Maybe some other owners.
Thank you, Mr. Gagne. Appreciate it.
Very much.
We are not going to move to the management report right away. We've had an opportunity, and we asked our corporate attorney, Mr. Trapani, to come to discuss the 25% rental cap situation facing the village. And in respect to his time, we're going to pass the microphone on now to Christopher Trapani, our corporate attorney. You can grab that microphone right there.
That's okay.
Good evening.
No, that's okay. Did you want to come and stand behind me, more comfortable?
It doesn't matter.
Okay,
It doesn't
that's
matter.
fine, go ahead.
Forgive my back.
Yeah.
Charlie had asked me to come tonight to explain my opinion about how the 25% rental cap works, or should work, because you've now have reached a point where the number of rentals has now exceeded that percentage. I have been working with Francis on this for the last few weeks, and after my review of your documents and the statutes, my opinion was this, that you have a 25% limit on the number of units that may be rented on any given time. And that limit applies to the units who voted for the amendment that implemented that cap, as well as all unit owners who acquired their unit after the effective date of that cap. The effective date of that cap was the date when the amendment to your documents was recorded in the public record, which I believe was late February of 2008. The only exception to that restriction is for unit owners who did not vote for the amendment and who acquired their unit prior to the effective date of the amendment. They are not affected by it. And that was the opinion I gave to Francis, and Charlie had come here to ask me to explain that. Where it starts to get a little fuzzy is what happens if somebody who is not renting today wants to rent months from now after the 25% cap has been reached. And the answer is it depends. If they voted for, well, and I know it sounds funny, but it depends. If they voted for the amendment, then they are subject to the cap and they would not be allowed to rent. If they didn't vote for the amendment, then they're not subject to the cap and they would be allowed to rent even though you had already reached your 25% threshold. So that was what Charlie had asked me to explain. For those folks who have already rented their units and are within, before the 25% cap was reached, they'll be continued to rent their units. For those folks who haven't had their units rented prior to the 25% threshold being reached, they'll only be permitted to rent their units if they did not vote for if they owned their unit prior to the effective date of the amendment, and if they didn't vote for the amendment themselves. It's a little confusing, I understand that, but the amendment itself was a little confusing.
We're going to open up. Are you finished, Chris, with your? Okay.
Well,
now any comments from the board of directors? Yeah. Let's move from Jerry. Move down the table.
What happens to someone who's renting? Can you give this to Jerry?
That's okay.
Bring this over to you. No, stay there. I'll bring this over. What happens if someone is renting and their rental leaves and they're not renting anymore because it's vacant? It's not that they don't want to rent. They've set their place up for rental. And 10 months later, they find another rental. Does the fact that they were one of the people able to rent allow them to get a tenant even though they had that hiatus?
We did discuss that today.
I want an answer. Yeah.
I understand that,
yeah.
sir.
Okay.
Your documents aren't clear. What we discussed was that the application of that rental cap is from the unit owner's perspective and not the tenant's perspective.
Well, I understand that. We're not talking about the tenant. We're talking about the owner.
Yes.
The owner's right to rent. He had the right to rent within the 20%.
I understand.
But yes, I understand my question. He's answering my question.
I do, sir.
Okay?
I do, sir. I do. And there is no clear answer because it will be a matter of equity for the unit owner. If the original tenant left and they found a new tenant 5 days later, then equity would suggest that the unit owner should be allowed to rent to that new tenant. If the vacancy was old and cold, and you can pick whatever example you want, whatever hypothetical, let's say it was vacant for 1 month, 5 months, 10 months, a year, at some point it appears that their efforts to rent the unit is abandoned and they would not be permitted. But your documents, I know you want a clear answer, sir, there is not one.
No,
your documents are not clear.
To me, you're muddying it a little more. You're throwing now equity in there. Okay, let's talk about equity. Okay, to my way of looking at it, we have people standing in line to rent. I have a few people that have written very poignant letters where that if they don't rent, they're questionable whether they can hold on to the unit. Now, this person who is renting loses their tenant. You're saying 5 days, it's a matter of equity, and of course he then could rent. But we have people waiting in line, and if that person who lost their tenant lets the 25% go under 25%, why would we be waiting 5 days to let that one who did rent get another renter? Why wouldn't we put in a renter that's qualified to be in there that right then? I mean, where does equity? 10 months is not equitable and 5 days is
You're right,
equitable.
sir. Your documents are not clear. Okay, the same problem arises if the unit owner themselves decides, I don't want to renew to this particular tenant. If they renew to the tenant, it would not even be an issue. But if they decide, I don't like this tenant, that tenant's not good for the association. They don't follow the rules, they're dirty, whatever. And they decide that they don't want to rent to that tenant. So they said, I'm going to go out into the world and bring in a new tenant that's better for the association. Under your way of thinking, that person, that unit owner, would lose their ability to rent in favor of the next person in line. There is no clear answer. I gave my best opinion based on the way your documents read. My understanding is that there's discussion going on to amend those documents to address that very issue. But as of right now, the documents are silent as to how to address that particular issue.
Chris?
Go ahead,
I just had a simple question because this was brought up earlier. When I read the documents and we put in place a 25% cap, does that include the owners that's exempt? The owners that have the right?
It does not say whether the exemption, whether it includes the exemption. However, they are exempt. By law, they are exempt. You cannot apply a restriction on a unit owner's ability to rent if they didn't vote for it.
So then we probably are not even at 25% because if we take everybody out that's exempt,
That's correct.
we still have 25%.
Exactly.
Well, wait a minute. We talked about that too. Let's assume, for the sake of discussion, to make the analysis a little easier, let's assume you only had 100 units. And exempt unit owners were the first 25 to rent their units. You would not be able to have anybody else rent their units. You still have reached your 25% threshold. That issue also was not addressed when the amendment was crafted. So as it stands now, the 25% threshold stands with one exception, and that exception is a unit owner who acquired their unit before the cap was implemented, and who did not vote for it. I don't like. You may not like the way that you may not like that result, but that is the result based on my reading of the documents and my understanding and my analysis of the law.
I have a question. We're going down the line. We're going down the line. We're going down the line.
I understand it. It doesn't seem so unclear to me.
Well, there are some problems with it when you have existing rentals that then become vacant.
But then it goes back on to the owner. If he rented, if he voted for the amendment or not, then he's done. He's finished.
Well, except that should they be allowed to re-rent the unit again, or do they go to the back of the line? And that's not addressed in your documents.
Just to clarify, if I'm a unit owner who voted for the amendment and I have a tenant in place, that tenant renews, I'm fine.
That would be my opinion,
Okay.
yes.
But that tenant leaves, but immediately on the 30th of the month, that tenant leaves. On the 1st of the next month, a new tenant comes in. What's my status?
It would be my opinion that your status remains the same. You were one of the first folks, the first 25%, to apply for and be approved to rent your unit.
But if I had a 2-week or a month or some period of time where my unit was vacant, that's the way.
That's correct.
Okay. If you didn't vote for it. Yeah, no, I voted for it. That was my prep.
But having voted for it,
Terry,
Michael.
Okay, thank you. Second part of the question. Someone brought up an interesting question. Mr. Kaufman, thank you. Our next line in the sand is 35%. As I understand it, 35% and above
Go ahead, Chris, answer that, please.
We're no longer.
I have to let him finish the question.
Yeah. We're no longer tax exempt after 35%.
That's right.
Okay. Can we, or nonprofit status? Okay.
That's different than the question we discussed.
Yes.
Okay, nonprofit status.
Yeah.
Could we fashion a new amendment that number one establishes the 34.9% threshold, and number two essentially eliminates the unpleasant parts of the 2008 amendment? Can we essentially wipe that one out and start from ground zero?
The answer is yes. The unit owners can fashion any restriction that they choose, provided it's consistent with the Condominium Act and other laws. So yes, you can have an amendment that raises the threshold from 25% to 35% and to address the gray areas that are not currently addressed. Yes.
And again, if that's a loosening of, if that loosens restrictions, then it would not, that part of the law that limits the applicability of that law, it would not apply to just those who voted for it.
That is not correct.
Not correct.
That is not correct.
Okay.
Okay, any restriction you place on a unit does not apply, any restriction regarding the leasing of the unit does not apply to a unit owner who already owns their unit unless they vote for it, or they transfer it to a new owner. Any restriction. Doesn't matter that you've made it better.
You still have to vote for it.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Francis? Francis, you have any comments? There you go.
The problem that I'm facing right now that is very critical. We had a lady who came to the Sales and Lease Committee meeting recently, and she ended a lease with a tenant several months ago, and now she wants to rent her apartment. She's found a better tenant. She didn't like the previous tenant, just as you mentioned. And I sent a letter telling her that under the 25% cap, and she bought her apartment after way after the amendment had been recorded, that she fell under the 25% cap now. Although previously we could have rolled over her lease without a problem because it didn't change the status quo. A new tenant was a new lease, and you couldn't have a new lease because the 25% cap had been reached. Okay. She's in distress, and she appealed to the board to see if there wasn't something that could be done. So that's one of the main reasons that Charles had you come in to. So you see my dilemma. Am I supposed to make a judgment as to the time elapsed where it's okay to approve and when it's not okay to approve? Who is to make that judgment?
That in essence is the board's decision. Whether or not someone is still renting the unit is a judgment call. Suppose instead...
No, she's not renting the unit. I mean, she lost her tenant, and her unit was stricken from the rental list, which means that the ratio went down slightly because a couple of leases had been terminated. And now she comes several months later and wants to enter into a new lease. And I sent her the letter that we couldn't be allowed into the 25% cap. Did I act properly?
This is one of those gray areas where there is no right or wrong answer. Suppose the tenant had, and I'm changing the facts a little bit to demonstrate the difficulty with this particular issue. Whenever you have a cap like this, if she instead went through the eviction process, and during the course of eviction you terminate your lease, okay, at that point, are they now cut off because the 25% threshold had been reached through exempt unit owners? I mean, some of this is a judgment call. There is no right or wrong answer as to that. It would be my opinion that because she had started her rental program, so to speak, within the 25% threshold, and she otherwise would be permitted to continue, that she ought to be permitted to continue. Now, is that going to result in an unfair situation for somebody? Yes. Either way you decide, someone is going to be unhappy because the next person who's waiting in line wants to jump in and take her spot. And so either she's going to be unhappy because you don't allow her to continue her rental, or the person who's next in line is going to be unhappy. There is no clear answer.
Is there anything that the board can do short of another amendment? Because again, as you pointed out, whatever amendment we might attempt to pass is only going to apply to those who don't vote for it. I mean, it's only going to apply to those who vote for it.
Those who vote for it.
So you're still going to have this privileged group and the less than privileged group. Is there any way that the board can legally establish the parameters of the gap in the vacancy?
Well, the better way to handle it, no matter what percentage threshold you use, is to try to, as best as you can, foresee these examples that are being brought up tonight and address them ahead of time, so that whoever is acquiring knows from the get-go what they're buying into.
Well, I understand that, and that's no problem when people come in to purchase a unit. They're advised that there is this restriction. But I'm talking about the people like this lady who has appealed to the board. She owns one unit that she lives in, and she uses the income from the other unit to pay her mortgages.
I understand the dilemma. I do. I can't give you.
There's no way we can resolve that.
No.
Through amendment change?
Yeah, through amendment change. That's the only thing I can.
Chris, I have a question for you, and let's go from the specifics to the general. Can the law be used as a whip, a cat o' nine tails, to take people who, through no fault of their own, doing a good job, are now downtrodden because of a bad law? Should Jean Valjean have gone to 20 years hard labor for stealing a loaf of bread? The law we have now is stupid and irrelevant to common sense. Common sense, wait a minute, common sense has taken a back seat to all this, and if I were a judge, and this lady that Francis was talking about came to me, I'd vote in favor of the lady. I'd vote in favor of Mr. Coleman, another desperate case who needs our help.
My opinion was that this...
I'm not asking you for your opinion yet. Not asking you for your opinion yet. What I'm asking you is, where does common sense and decency and justice play into this ridiculous situation we find ourselves in?
You have to get the law changed.
Well, that was my comment before when I brought up the word equity. Equity just means fairness.
Can we as a board vote equity and damn the torpedoes full speed ahead?
I'll just
answer that question.
I will tell you, you have no choice but to.
Good. Thank you very much.
In the situation of this woman, when the facts were presented to me, it was my opinion that she should be permitted to rent. The problem you have, though, is fairness to this woman creates unfairness to the person who's next in line. And if you then say, well, okay, we're going to make our decision based on hardship, because if you don't allow them to rent, they may not be able to pay their mortgage. That's going to apply to every person who buys in here as an investor.
We understand
and that's going to defeat the entire purpose of the cap, as I understand it.
We can play God and then change the amendment at the same time. Is that not true?
Of course.
Thank you.
We could change the amendment, but it still only applies to those who vote for it.
I know. We'll change it right this time.
No, that's not.
But if the folks who vote for it are those
who votes for it,
those folks who would then benefit from that amendment are likely going to vote for it. And my understanding is that it seems to me that the folks who are looking for the change are looking to increase the percentage threshold of renters, and they would be the ones who benefit.
I can tell you this, the one single thing that is most important to this facility at this point in time is to increase occupiers who pay maintenance. Nothing else, everything else pales in comparison to that one single thing. Okay? That's all I can say. And what we can do as a board, if you give us the largesse to apply equity to the situation, that's great. That's what I want. And I'm not worried about people waiting in line. I'll play God up here because I'm a director. And I'll say, I think this lady should be in here. I think Mr. Coleman should be in here. And if someone else gets screwed because they're at the back of the line, they can take it out on me.
Okay.
Fine.
I'm not blessing that approach,
I understand
but
that.
I understand the thinking.
Thank you.
I concur with a lot of that, but let me, when this amendment was designed, and I don't think this thing is on.
I think it's on, Michael.
What, is it on?
Yep. It's on now. No, it is.
When this amendment was created, it was at a time 4 or 5 years ago, in the height of the beginning of the crash of real estate. And the opportunity created by the amendment is the same amendment that has the cap. So people like this girl, Shelley Varnum, I believe her name is, she bought one to live in and one to invest in, which is what we wanted. But she bought it after the amendment. But she bought it based on the opportunity to buy foreclosures or in lieu of foreclosure properties, and now he's taken away the right to rent it. Well, that's the reason she bought it.
We understand that, Michael.
I understand the problem, but the problem can be addressed by you folks. You folks have the ability to fix it.
Sure.
But I will at least address this situation about
Michael,
playing God.
was she informed at the time of purchase
Because
that she was limited?
No, they weren't informed when they purchased it that they would be not allowed to rent it again because of the cap. Although they had a chance to read the condo docs.
Everyone who buys is charged with the knowledge and the content of the documents, whether they understand them or not. That's just the way it is.
Okay, can I just finish?
Sure.
When the purpose of this is to reduce our foreclosed units, our in lieu of foreclosure and bank owned, to reduce them. People are not going to buy them in time for us to salvage our financial problems and wait out the economy. I think if we tied the number of available opportunities for foreclosure purchase by current owners, that we could stop it when we reach a point where the banks will offer us mortgages, because our delinquency rate, say, is 8%, 9%. Now it's 16%. If we could get it down somehow to 8%, it could be an amendment tied to the delinquent numbers. And once we're under the numbers, you get mortgages and values will go up.
That's not our discussion tonight, though.
No, but it's just, is that
Michael, excuse me, that's not the discussion tonight.
Yeah,
We're talking about the 25% cap.
That's what I'm talking about, the 25% cap.
You're not. You're going
How you address this dilemma, every idea will be a good idea. And the motivation is not the issue. The issue from my perspective, I mean, what you're talking about is judgment, business judgment. That's not what I provide. What I provide is legal guidance. Can you do what you're doing? Are you subject to legal challenge such that the amendment, whatever you do, is going to fail? If somebody were to challenge it, that's what I provide. And unfortunately, like I said, your documents are not clear as to certain circumstances. I do want to make one point to your comments, and that's this. Yes, as you sit on the board, you have a certain amount of authority and a certain amount of discretion. But as I understand that when that discretion was exercised in the past, it created some upheaval. So be careful about what you do going forward, okay? Because if you exercise discretion simply because you think you can, and it's not consistent with your documents, and it's not consistent with your law, you may end up having the same problems that you have today. That's all I caution you.
Thank you, Chris. I think the conclusion. I think the conclusion is this. I think that this board. Marvin. Okay, Marvin, go ahead.
Mr. Trapani, in some of these gray areas, it's going to be damned if we do and damned if we don't. So part of my consideration is question of association liability. Where are we most liable? Where are we more? Do we have less defense against an action brought against us?
I don't have an answer for you right now.
Charlie, you brought this to my attention only this morning. I'd like some time to think about that, reflect on the documents, the law, and a more thoughtful answer.
Yeah, one of the things that disturbs me most is you've previously cautioned us to abide by our rules explicitly. And it breaks my heart sometimes when I hear some of the stories of the people who are in distress. It could be me tomorrow, and I voted for the amendment. But the board places itself then subject to accusations of selective enforcement.
I understand the issue. I do. I understand the issue. But your documents do not provide the clarity that you need. And so, the very simple question is, what do we do?
Okay. Well, I'm going to address that right away, Chris. Thank you very much. This is, I think, with the understanding of the rest of the board, I think this is a very important matter, and I think what we need to do is form a committee right away of board members with the help of our legal advisor, and to write up a new amendment and discuss how we're going to write up this amendment and present it to the membership.
What are we going to do about the people who are suffering under the cap, Charles? Do they wait until we write up a new amendment?
Mark, let me make a comment, all right? This new board was elected on one premise, that was on transparency and honesty. I think it's hypocritical for us, good or bad, to step outside and say we're better than anybody else and we're going to go against our docs. We need to stick to our docs. We need to talk about this internally as a committee and make up our mind here. We're not going to make up our mind here now, Mark. If you expect an answer from me or any other board member what we're going to do, you're not going to get it tonight. You may get it in a committee and then brought up in the next board meeting before we go to the membership. And Mark, please, let's not discuss whether you want to be God or not God. Tonight is not the night to decide that. What we are deciding, with the cooperation of the rest of the board, is we are going to form a committee to discuss this very issue, and we're going to form it very quickly and take it to the board very quickly with the help of Mr. Trapani.
I disagree with that.
Okay, Jerry.
I'd like to make a statement. You're doing the talking. I'd like my chance to do that.
Absolutely, Jerry.
May I ask you a question?
But don't be surly.
May I ask
Be
you a
what?
question?
Surly.
I'm never surly.
Okay.
I don't know anyone.
But don't call me Shirley.
May I ask a question first, Jerry? Please. Whether we form this committee or after Jerry speaks, whether we don't form this committee. In the meantime, do I continue operating the sales and lease decisions as I have been doing?
I would say yes, but I think my subject matter is what the lawyer brought up, which is equity. Okay? And I think that we can come to a decision. We have people that are hanging by their fingernails. I think we have everybody here. We've had even the lawyer here. And what I understand him to say, we really didn't even need the lawyer here, because we could have worked through this through common sense and equity. And he would have put his blessing on it. Okay? And I think that's what we need here. We don't need legal decisions on everything that we do because of things that are in the documents, because lawyers tell you when you bring up those subjects, the first thing they say when you ask them a direct question that's maybe appears black and white to you, they say, it depends. That's always their answer. That's their business. It depends. There's never an answer. Okay? And then you can pay for an answer. If you say, it depends, but I want you to support this point of view, that's what they get paid for. I don't think we need that. I think we need equity. There are neighbors. There are people that have lived here for years. They've run into difficult times. I think it only takes equity and common sense. It doesn't take anything more than that. Plus, we're the beneficiaries. we have a unit that's going to be rented, and it's going to throw off the assessment, it's going to throw off the maintenance charge. I don't get it. I don't know what all this important crossing the T's and dotting the I's are when we can just use common sense. Are these bad people that are in these two units? Are they paying their maintenance? Are they paying their assessment? Do we want to force them into foreclosure so that eventually we don't get the assessment and for years we don't get the maintenance? I don't get it. To me, I think we could bring it up for a vote. I would vote to give these people the opportunity to rent it. I don't see where it hurts anybody.
You don't have the right, Jerry. That's the bottom line. The board does not have the right. No, you do not have the right to change the docks.
I'm not changing the dock. I'm doing it based on equity. I'm doing it based on, and the lawyer said we have the, I thought I understood him to say that we have the right to do, now if somebody wants to challenge us, take money out of their pocket and say, well, you shouldn't have done that because I only want 25%. I don't want 26%. I don't think we're going to find somebody to take money out of their pocket to do that. So I think we're on. Pardon?
Yeah. We've got it already.
We've got it right now. That's the problem.
What do we have right now?
We have a lawsuit. We have a lawsuit against us on those grounds.
Not on the 25%.
What are they challenging?
The moratorium. That's part of the lawsuit.
Yeah. I don't think they're challenging specifically that.
Yes, they are. It's in there.
Personally, I don't see anyone having a problem with handling a hardship case, as we used to call it, or as he calls it, equity, or as I call it, common sense. I don't see that. What you're talking about is a bigger issue.
They were hardship cases, and we addressed it in a blanket manner by putting a moratorium on it, and then we got sued.
Yeah, but that's the moratorium. The concept of a moratorium is what you're getting sued on. I don't agree with the moratorium either,
So this is
and I haven't.
So this is a single moratorium.
No, this is not a single moratorium. This is not.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jerry, look, we can continue this discussion all night. I think this is a discussion that has to be handled in committee.
But you gotta give the audience a chance to ask.
Yes, hold on. Hold on, Stuart. I'm addressing the board of directors right now. Thank you. I think that this is a discussion that must be put to committee. And within committee, we'll make the discussion and the committee will make the decisions. Okay?
I make a motion that we decide now. Okay?
No, it's
Not an agenda item?
No.
It's not in
I
order.
thought we have it on. We have it on.
No. It says a discussion only. Discuss. Discuss is not, it's not a voting. It's a general discussion. Okay, I'll take questions from the audience. Yes, Dove. Please. Yes, Dove.
You have to use a microphone. Please.
Stand up, Dove. Gary, please. Thank you. Gary, please.
I have a question for the attorney. I don't know your name, Sharon? Sharon, you had mentioned the ones that are grandfathered in. You had said if they're out of the equation, which they will be.
Well, we don't know.
Well, they're out of the equation, right? I thought we established that.
That's not what I said.
Oh, what? I'm sorry.
That's not what I said. What I said was that they are exempt from the application of the cap. That does not mean that they're out of the equation.
I'm sorry. You're right. You said you weren't sure. It depends.
No, that's not what I said.
So it does. It is included.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that's my question.
Good. Thank you very much.
Okay. We're going to call on our I'm sorry, Mr. Gunya, you have a question.
Yeah, well, I think it was said that lesser of two evils, or you got to look at this way. I don't agree with Jerry, by the way, although I feel for these people that are in limbo right now. I don't agree that you make a special for 2. Why not 3 or 4 or 5? It's going to keep going. I sort of agree with Charlie of creating a committee, but real fast, and getting a decision on getting the rentals, and that's what I mean by lesser of two evil, getting the rentals up to 34%. Not 35, because I don't want to own a hotel. 1,400 feet of hotel room is not what I want, changing the status. 34%. The bad thing is more tenants, you know, but if we strengthen our regulations for tenants, you know, because already we have bad tenants, we're probably going to get more bad tenants if we go, that's the wrong side of it, more tenants. I'd love to have no tenants as an owner, but right now the investors, if you go 34% and let's assume it's 8% more, that's 60 some odd new investors that could buy tomorrow and pay condo fees. Now if 90% or 90 people don't pay right now and you get 75 new ones that pay, you're in pretty good shape. So I think that's the lesser of two evils, is raise the thing, it'll solve the two people that we're all crying about. Terry, you'll have your opinion, but I'm giving mine right now. You know, I didn't study this, but it seems to make sense to me.
Thank you, Eve. Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
The danger with the 34% is, okay, we're going to have 34%. That'll be the equation. But what if 600 owners, okay, don't vote for it, or 500? Then we're going to have it's going to be open to have 500 or 600 tenants in this. And it's going to go way beyond. In other words, we pass it as 34%. But I live here, I don't vote for it. Then I move out, I'm not subject to that, I can rent mine out. There would be so many renters in here, it'd be unbelievable. No one in their right mind that is presently an owner would vote for it, knowing that this could happen again.
Thank you, Terry. Go ahead, we have one more question. This is the last question because we got to move on. Wendy, thank you.
We are focused right now on the cap, the 24% cap for renters. But how about the cap that exists for people to buy properties here? And I understand that there are limited of 4, and a lot of people rent. They have bought a lot more than 4, and of course they're gonna be renters. They are using this as an investment.
Sorry, Wendy, but I have to cut you off.
I know.
I'm sorry, I have to cut you off. That's not our discussion. That's for another day. Thank you. We're going to move on. We're going to go on to our management report. Maureen.
Mr. Trapani wants to know if he stays or he goes.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Christopher, Chris, wait a minute.
What do you need, Francis?
I was just calling him for you.
Oh, yeah.
Not this. It's not.
No, this is from me.
It's not.
No.
What do you look?
Yeah.
Okay. Attention, please. Can I have your attention? Let's get on with this meeting. Terry, please. Thank you. Michael? Thank you. All right, Maureen, your report, please.
Thank you. The indoor spa has been finished. We have received all of our final inspections with the exception of one, which is Broward County, which we have an appointment next week for them to come out and do their final certification of it. But it is open for use. So we do have that done. The elevators, we have noticed that there are 2 elevators that need a modification. Those are the last 2 on property. They'll be coming before the board with quotes next month.
Which building?
Nottingham and Yorkshire. Elwood and I are going around, we're starting to crack down again on violations. We were a little lax there, but we are moving forward with that. Elwood and I go around, we can do only about 2 buildings a day because of everything that happens at the association. So please forgive me if you get a violation letter, but we do need to get everything cleaned up. And this is for everything from torn screens to broken windows to garbage on your patio, things like that. There has been discussion between Charles and I. There used to be a program where we used to have building monitors, and we would like to start that again. I was told that it worked quite well, where there was a building captain, and then they would report to the office things that maintenance may not have noticed. So if you're interested, we'd like you to get a hold of the office. It would be a great help to us. We now have wireless internet here in this room. We had some items put in, I'm not quite sure what they're called, please forgive me, but now we can get wireless in here, because a great complaint was they could only get it in the small card room, and if people were in there, they couldn't get it here. Also, it would help because if a movie doesn't play properly, we have Netflix on the Blu-ray. So we can just sign in if the movie doesn't play and you still have a movie that night, and we don't have to cancel and have people go home upset. George and I are walking around looking at buildings. We're doing 4 buildings a week, 1 for each cleaner. We are going to start cracking down on the housekeeping as well. So we've done 4 buildings already. We have 4 more to do this week. I know it's going to be a slightly long process. We just ask for your patience that it will get taken care of. Excuse me. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
What does cracking down on housekeeping mean?
We're making sure they're doing their job to the best of their ability.
Can one person take care of 2 or 3 buildings?
One person has taken care of 3 buildings. Quite honestly, that's a lot. It's a lot. We really need another housekeeper. But that's up to the board to evaluate and to make that decision. Yes, sir.
You had told me when I spoke to you on Saturday that you would attempt to get the figure for the number of owners who are not under the 25% cap. Are you able to get that number?
I have a preliminary, but both Ms. Francis and I looked at it, and what I was given today is not accurate. The only accurate way that we will know who is exempt is if we go through the box and go sheet by sheet out of the proxies. I had Lisa do it, and she just separated all the units that were purchased prior to 2006. Not what was asked for, but she was trying to do the best of her ability. We have to go through that box.
Well, all the units that were purchased prior to 2006 would be the answer, less those owners who are still here that voted for the cap. That would be the answer.
Correct.
So do you know the owners that we have here that are still here that own their units as of before the amendment was passed, which was February of 2008, I thought I understood the lawyer to say.
February 25th of 2008.
Right. So do we know how many owners who are still here exist?
No.
That should be a real simple matter. You don't have to check anything.
No, it's not simple, but it can be compiled.
Well, it's just strictly from the deed. The deed will tell you.
We don't have the deeds.
Well, but you can get the deeds.
Yes.
We've been wrestling with this problem for not since yesterday. This question has been out there for quite a while. That answer should be at least that answer. I mean, that has to be doctored by people who, by mistake, voted for that amendment and restricted their rights, not knowing that by voting for it, they'd be restricting their rights. I think that's a little underhanded, because I'm sure I'm not reading the information that was sent out with the amendments, indicating that if they voted for something, that would singularly make them responsible for it and not people who didn't vote for it. I know myself as an owner, I would never vote for something like that, and I'm sure that I didn't vote for the units that I owned before that date. So I think most people wouldn't have done that. So all I'm asking for is a simple number. The people who are still here that owned their property, that deeded to them before February of 2008. I don't think that's a difficult thing to get.
It is a monumental job, Jerry. I'm sorry that you think it's a very simple thing to do. It's a monumental job. It can be undertaken. Don't minimize the fact that it is a big job to do.
Is that a monumental job? Because you're on the deeds all the time, being in the real estate business. Talking to you, Mike.
Oh, yes.
Would that be a monumental job for you?
First of all, I'd like to know how many people voted, by record, how many owners voted, period, in that election.
All right, but
how many are in that box?
The first question is, how many owners are still owners here that owned their property before the amendment was passed?
Those records were not secured for 4 years. How can you go by that box of records, which is probably only 85% complete?
I'm not talking about that. All I'm talking about is how many owners do we still have here who owned their property before the amendment was passed and therefore are not restricted in rentals.
But if they voted for it, they were.
I understand that. That's something then that has to be added to. Yeah.
If you can make the time, we really appreciate you coming in the office and help us out.
Well, that's why we're paying Maureen. You're not paying me anything. I asked Maureen on Saturday, and Maureen told me she could do it. She could do it. Now, after dealing with you folks, she can't do it, and I don't understand it.
Us folks.
That's what I understand.
No.
I had a clear conversation with Maureen. Maureen informed me that she could do it. Okay, and now we can't do it, and I'm mystified. Okay, and the only one that speaks to her, the only one that speaks to her,
you're mystified,
the only
Jerry.
one that speaks to her,
You're
the officers.
mystified, Jerry, because you have no understanding.
Oh, I'm not
you
very.
You have not come into the office tomorrow. Please volunteer
Wait, I
the
asked
time,
her. I
like
didn't
we
tell
do
her. I
every
asked
single
her.
day. That we do every single day. Come in the office and help us out. That's all I'm asking.
I do my help.
Are you going to come
I
in?
do my help. I am helping you. Aren't I helping you with my emails? I'm helping you. I'm supporting you. I don't happen to be living here. I'm living somewhere else.
Well, come in
I'm still coming here.
and give us a couple of hours and see for yourself, Jerry.
Listen.
Let's not argue.
Listen, I'll be glad to hire someone to do that. I don't need to do
Excuse me, is this part of the manager's report?
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If no one else has any other questions.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Where are the coupon books?
Okay.
The coupon books have been ordered. We had an issue with a test file to Wachovia. The new test file went over there on Friday from New Community Strategies. With today being a holiday, I should have the proof back tomorrow with the bank's blessing. And then the new coupon books take about a week to print, and they will mail them directly to the unit owners.
Yes.
You said that wireless now extends into a large card room?
Yes.
How far does it go the other direction? The wireless. Can you get it outside at the pool? You can get it in the pool. Yes.
You can get a limited area in the pool, you can get it.
Can you get it in the cabanas? Wireless?
That I'm not sure.
Yes.
Absolutely. They have free wireless.
Yes.
So they have free wireless as well.
Free water also.
It used to reach all the way to this side of Nottingham. People were sitting on their balconies and getting
Harriet, the unfortunate thing is you can't build a wall. That's why it's called wireless. So it's not directional to the, if you put wireless in the main clubhouse and here, yes, our folks in the cabana are getting a nice little extra again. Agreed. Okay. Thank you, Maureen. We're going to move on to the
Security.
security report, please.
A quick question on the management report.
Yes, Joe.
With all the confusion of you can do it or can't do it, I don't even know how you've come up to the percentage that we're at with the rentals. Doesn't make any sense to me because you can't document it. Secondly, I keep hearing from Mark, started with his presentation about our financial management company, new management corporation, whatever they're called.
Right.
We spent thousands of dollars on the TOPS program. We hired somebody who was supposed to set it up. Where are we at with that? Never heard a thing about it. Are we using it or not?
We'll be taking, if I'm correct, we're keeping New Community Strategies through the end of March?
We are keeping community strategies. I believe it's on mid-March, Maureen. This is what Gina told me the other day.
Okay.
Mid-March, and by mid-March we're on our own.
Okay. The TOPS has been updated. We have been putting information into it all along. We were a little held up because there were 4 months that we didn't get our financials with no bank reconciliation. So she's getting caught up with that. But mid-March, we'll be ready to roll on our own.
Any other questions? We're going to move on to our committee reports.
No, security.
I'm sorry, security report. Where is Mr. Elwood?
Good evening, everyone. Security report. The barcodes that's been worked on the vehicles. Some of the barcodes is not working. I've been working with Lisa very closely on the barcode situation. However, I've been hearing rumors that there's some people who have a barcode that is laminated. You cannot laminate a barcode because if you do, the little micros that's inside the barcode will heat up and you cannot use the barcode to come in through the gate. Okay, I have spoken to my staff about it, and by the way, I have a staff meeting on Wednesday. I will reassure my staff, if anybody using a laminated barcode to come in through the gate, confiscate the barcode. Okay? Now, any barcode that's not working, what I've been doing is I've been going around, scraping off the barcode, and leave a note at the resident's door to let them know they have to come into the office to come and see Lisa to get a new barcode for their vehicle. That way, there's no traffic at the gate. All right? Second of all, people who's walking in with a pass. There's a lot of people who've been coming into the property, they claiming that they live here, but they don't have any pass. So what I've been doing between the hours of 4 to 6 p.m., I've been stopping at the gate with my guys and stopping the residents who's coming and walking in from school or wherever, getting off the bus, stopping them and giving them a hard time about living here. 95% of the time, there are people who live here. They choose not to go inside the office to get a pass. Why? I don't know. But I'm telling them we are being strict, and they must have an international pass. If they don't have it, they will not be allowed to come into the property. I have taken down the names and also the apartment number, and I've been working with Lisa on that to get in contact with the owners or the tenants who they staying with to make sure that they have a pass to come into the property. That's what I've been doing. That's it.
They can come on with a driver's license.
Yes, if they have a driver's license that is affiliated with International Village, we have to let them in. Okay? Yes, Mike.
You know, I found one of those barcodes on the ground.
Okay.
One of our barcodes, laminated.
Not laminated, still in its jacket. Laminated means it passed through a machine.
Well, it was covered in plastic, whatever that is.
That's not lamination, Michael.
Oh, what do you call it?
That is the original packaging of the unit. Okay.
Well, I'll show it to you, and you can tell me it's a portable barcode. It's been plastic coated. And I went to the gate when I found it on the ground to see what's up with this. And people have them. The person at the gate, the woman who was working there, said she's seen a number of them in the last couple months where they just hold them up. How the hell do you get them?
And by the way, I have one.
Very easy to do. Well, the purpose of having the barcodes put on your window is so they're not transferable to someone else, and we control who comes through the gate. That rule's been very carefully protected for years.
And Michael, I happen to have one because I happen to drive a car that has no place to put the barcode on. I have a convertible with no rear window. So what I have is a non-laminated, free-handed barcode that when I drive by, I take it out of my glove compartment and I flash it in front of the reader.
Okay, not everybody has it.
No, but I'm just saying, when I asked for one, I didn't realize that I couldn't have one. And since then, it's, I haven't been using it. I've been using my Inverrary a village card. Are you finished, sir?
Okay.
Right. Terry says that people are coming up with these things by taking them off of cars, stealing them. Is that right?
No, you can't do that.
You can't do
You
that.
can't. Here's the thing. If you remove a barcode that's been placed on the car, you remove it, the little micro that's inside is gone. You can't use that barcode to get in. You cannot. No, you cannot. You can't. You cannot. Okay? Another issue is the laundry room. The laundry room at the Heidelberg building. Okay? I have been authorized and I have the email to prove it that we have to lock it at 10 o'clock at night. I'm getting chewed out left and right by homeowners. My guards are getting chewed out left and right. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, the Heidelberg laundry room has to be locked at 10 o'clock. Any questions, see the property manager or the president. Okay?
Oh, sure, because the laundry room is not open after 10 o'clock.
Exactly.
People going.
Yes, but here's the thing. You have a lot of people who get off from work claiming that they have to do laundry or throw out trash at 10 o'clock at night.
No, it's not allowed.
Exactly, it's not
It's
allowed.
not allowed.
It's not allowed. And I told the homeowner that all the time, but she's still
Because
chewing
if
me
you're
up.
getting off work at 10 o'clock, you have time in the morning to go in the
Exactly.
laundry when it opens at 8.
Or on the weekend.
Okay?
Just make sure it opens at 8, that's the only negative.
Right.
You're absolutely right there.
The Heidelberg is a test run. We're doing a test at the Heidelberg building to make sure that it's working, and then we're going to put them in all the buildings.
And it's working very well.
Yeah, it's been going on for a little while now.
Yeah.
We should have a decision.
So,
Okay? The back wall. I have talked to Maureen numerous of times about the back wall. Me and Charlie have spoken, and he wanted me to give him an idea of what we need. The back wall. For the past 2 months now, the beginning of the year, so far between me, Mr. Richard, and another rover, we have caught 12 people jumping the wall in the back to come into the property. Now, when I catch them, I make them jump that wall back over, and I take my personal car, I go around to the area, I have Mr. Richard stand right there and watch them, and I watch them coming to the front. Okay? That back wall is a major issue. I understand that we don't have no money. I understand that we have other things that we have to accommodate, but that back wall is very, very important. Please, I'm asking you guys, if you guys see anybody jumping that back wall, call me right away. My guards, we here. Yes, Ms. Clement.
I have always advocated that for a relatively modest sum, we could plant bushes on the inside of that wall, which would discourage people from jumping over. I wanted to have it done on the outside of the wall, and tried to get the help of the Inverrary Association to plant the bushes for us. And they claimed that it would not be very practical for many reasons. One of them was irrigation. There's no water supply out there. This is not on.
It is on.
Okay. But really, we need to spend the money to put bushes on the inside of that wall where people jump over. It's an easy, attractive way to avoid a nuisance. Thank you.
Okay. Last but not least is the towing. Just for the past 2 weeks now, we had towed 4 vehicles out the property. Reason why is because they have expired tags that's been sitting here in the property. And under the rules and regulations of the association, you have an expired tag. You either take care of it within 24 hours or it will be towed. So far, we have towed 4 cars out of the property. Okay? That's my security report for Lebanon. Thank you.
I have a question.
Thank you, Elwood. Any questions for Elwood? Thank you.
The license plate?
Yes. Oh, okay. Yes.
right there.
Elwood, there's a problem in my building with people that I refer to as squatters, but I guess in reality what they really are is illegal occupants, whereas you have a number of illegal occupants living with the unit owner, where no paperwork has ever been filed, no applications to have additional people living in the unit. These people do not pay their maintenance. It has been referred to the attorneys. and my understanding from Maureen is that it can take a long time to get these people out. We do things that we can to inconvenience them, like lifting their barcodes, inconveniencing them in that way, and keeping them from using our facilities. However, they are still causing terrible problems for some of us in the building. And just to give you one example, they prop the back door open, and you know this, and George knows this, and Maureen knows this. They prop that back door open so they can have this constant traffic, friends coming in and out, and the back door is only a few feet from the lake, and they had the nerve to go into the office and complain that they have mice in their unit now. That's how mice and rats and other critters get into these buildings, when these back doors are propped open with rocks and sticks and they roll up the mats. So there must be more we can do about illegal occupants inside units other than suspending barcodes, refusing to allow them to use our facilities. We have dogs living with illegal occupants. I mean, it's insane what's going on. And if it's going on in my building, I'm going to guess that similar problems exist in other buildings, and these issues really need to be addressed.
Thank you, Steve. I would suggest you take your complaints to the Complaints Concern Committee.
I will do that.
I have one comment.
We have just the opposite problem in our building. We actually have people living illegally with dogs.
So many.
Just the opposite.
Mr. Jorge, can you come and give us your maintenance report, please?
Good evening, folks. To where I started. The first time you want to know, we're going to speak around the maintenance, the roof. We're doing monthly cleaner, the guards and the pipes in the roof. We don't have any leakings in the past raining days. We have only one problem. It's ready for fixing in the San Maurice building. When the scupper is broken, we go on fixing. We hire a roofing guys coming next week, or probably in the end this week for fixing. I'm glad we don't have any problems, leakings. That's real nice. We have in good shape with the roof. Also, we working on and reduce the power usage and the lights in all the community, including the hallways. We had a lot of incandescent light. We use it now. And the buildings we renovated, we was put incandescent light, we replaced for fluorescent light with less power. That is going to help for saving power and reduce the expenses we have in power. Also, we're doing also around the buildings, the big lights we have outside, we have in process, we're going to change we're going to reduce approximately 50% less power usage for different systems. We're going to change the lights. We're not going to lose the lights, we're going to have still same lights, but we're going to have reduce the power. Another thing I want to explain to you is I have many problems in the buildings. We have too many leakings in the apartments. We have approximately every week, three leaks we have from the water heater tanks for the air conditioning units. I'm real. It's not fair that somebody has lived in the first floor and one person on the second floor never changed the water heater tank. It's almost 25 years old. You have to look in the unit you have in the apartment and think a little bit about when it's leaking, you're going to have a damage in your carpet, in your wall, and also we have damage in the first floor. I have too many problems with in this case. I'd like you help me and looking and make a decision and help the community. We don't have any damage in the buildings. Around the maintenance outside the buildings, we in process painting all the walkways in the front of the buildings. we passed already all the raining seasons now. We're going to start pressure cleaning, and we're going to make a nice entrance in the buildings and painting what the color is. I don't want to talk about the laundry rooms again. I'm telling you right now, we have a lot of problems with the people dropping a lot of garbage in the laundry rooms every day. The laundry room for me is a place for wash. It's no place for put the garbage. The garbage they put is not only the regular garbage. They put a bags for moving, tables, chairs. It's a mess, real. You know, it's a lot of work. TVs, furniture, sofa, and beds and everything. That's a lot of work. Take it out. We have to help me as Ron, somebody doing this job, and report to us. But we're going to charge for moving all this garbage outside. And like maybe we're going to refer to the finance committee for give you pay for some money to the village. Not do that this way. That's all my report for now. Thank you very much. Any questions?
I have a comment on it.
No, hold on, because it's the director. Go ahead, Martin.
As far as people misusing the laundry rooms for disposal of improper trash, I agree that something needs to be done and fines need to be levied. In order to do that, we have to identify the violator. And the only way that I know of, it can't be done after the fact. You walk in some hours later, and all of a sudden there's furniture or whatever in there. Who did it? There's no way to know. The only way to identify a violator that I'm aware of is to have an active camera and recording system, which gets back to the old security system that if we want to deal with the misuse of the laundry rooms, unless somebody comes up with a better idea, that's something that this board, or some board, is going to have to come to grips with.
Any questions?
On that subject, people are always going to take path of least resistance. Nobody really knows what to do with this stuff, and you put it in the laundry room and it's gone the next day. Well, this must be how we do it. There's no sign that says don't do it. I put it there, it's gone tomorrow. This must be how it goes. And in reality, it's not, I mean, it's hard on you guys, but it may be, how else are we going to do it? We got to give people a way to deal with their stuff. And we got to give them a place to take it, or make it an amenity to living here that will help you out with it. But at least, or put them aside and say, don't do this. It's something, nobody knows they can't do it. 20 years it's been like that I know of.
It's a good point, Kurt.
Yes. Maybe we should start thinking about what the city does and say every Thursday, please put your goods out and we'll come around and collect it and whatever. So that's a discussion that we should have. Good. Thank you, Kurt. It's well noted. Thank you. Thank you, George. We're going to move on. It is a little after 9 o'clock. We're going to go to our committee reports. Ms. Francis, sales and leasing, please.
The committee has met twice previous to this meeting, once on February the 6th, where they took the following actions. Approved a rollover lease for Orleans 1M, efficiency for $550 a month. Approved a rollover lease for Grenoble 1L, a 2-bedroom unit for $950 a month. Approved the sale of St. Moritz 2P, a 4-bedroom unit for $88,000. The estoppel letter includes $13,103.73 special assessment recovery and $165.87 miscellaneous costs. The closing date is unknown at the time of this report. Approved a rollover lease for Zurich 2Y, a 1-bedroom unit for $750 a month. Approved the sale of Grenoble 1J, a 2-bedroom unit for $75,000. The special assessment on this unit was fully recovered in a previous sale. The closing date is unknown at the time of this report. Approved by default a 1.5-month seasonal lease for Grenoble 2S for $5,000. Through inadvertence, the application was never approved nor disapproved within the 30 days from the date of application, and the committee had to default and approve the lease. Disapproved an annual lease for Nottingham 3D. The unit was not eligible for rent, had not been owned for 1 year, and was subject to the 25% rental cap. The committee met again on February the 17th and approved a rollover lease for Bordeaux 3M and Efficiency for $575 a month. Approved a rollover lease for Marseille 3H, a 2-bedroom unit for $990 a month. Approved a rollover lease for Orleans 3U, a 1-bedroom unit for $750 a month. Approved a rollover lease for St. Moritz 1J, a 2-bedroom unit for $1,100 a month. Approved a permanent occupancy permit for Heidelberg 1S, a 1-bedroom unit. Approved the sale of Orleans 1V, a 2-bedroom unit for $62,000. Settlement is scheduled for 3/15/12. No special assessment is outstanding. Approved the sale of Yorkshire 1F, a 1-bedroom unit for $38,000. Estoppel letter and closing date not received at the time of this report. Approved the sale of Nottingham 1Q, a 1-bedroom unit for $37,000. Settlement had been scheduled for December 16th, but not yet held. We will recover $6,239.20 special assessment and $278.09 maintenance and miscellaneous costs. Disapproved a permanent occupancy permit for Nottingham 3D. The unit has been owned for less than 6 months. The owner does not live in the unit, and the proposed occupant was not an immediate family member. Disallowed the rental of St. Moritz 1N and Interlaken 3W, as they were not exempt from the 25%. A letter was sent to the owner of Orleans 2U, advising that the unit was not available for rent under the 25% cap. The owner plans to appeal to the board for an exception. 2 committee members declined to sign the approval depending on the action of the board. And the action of the board will have to stand. The action of the chairman in the disapproval of the lease and the sending of the letter will stand in view of Mr. Trapani's advice this evening. This is the case of Ms. Varnum, who asked for a special exception, and the board did not grant the special exception.
I don't think the board voted on it.
No, it's the board decided not to take any action on it right now. Charles recommended a committee.
There was no decision by the board.
No decision was made.
There was no decision.
The board made no decision.
The board did not make a decision.
The board made no decision.
And this particular thing will be tabled.
And the board is not.
I don't know how it can be tabled.
The board is not allowed to make a decision.
How can it be tabled?
Because we haven't made a decision on this. According to Mr. Trapani, this is a gray area.
Oh, well, gray is good.
Yes, gray is good.
Gray is good. Gray is good. So why can't we discuss it and grant it? I mean,
I thought we did discuss it.
I didn't think so. The subject was brought up about the 25% cap, but that particular item, while it was used as an example, was not voted on by the board.
That's right, it wasn't voted on.
And I don't know why it can't be voted on by the board.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's on sales and lease, and we're bringing it to the board. So instead of the chairman of the committee making the decision.
The chairman did not make a decision on her own.
No, I understood what you read. What you read is that 2 people on the committee didn't want to make a decision.
Correct.
And the chairperson of the committee, because of the rules and regulations, made the decision not to do anything at this time.
No,
that was my
that's not
understanding,
true.
Right?
No, that's not true.
Reread what you said.
A letter was sent to the owner of Orleans 2U advising that the unit was not available for rent under the 25% cap. The owner plans to appeal to the board for an exception.
Well, what did you say about the Go ahead.
2 committee members declined to sign the disapproval pending action by the board.
Okay, and what's the rest of it? You said something else.
That's it.
No,
So I said.
That's it. I heard you say something
Oh,
about...
I said that, considering what Mr. Trapani has advised us this evening, I'm assuming that I acted correctly in sending the letter to his owner.
Unless the board chooses to
Unless
go-
the board chooses to do something about it.
But I think we would.
It stands.
Right, I would like to, I don't know how the format to do it, but I'd like to bring up to the board the opportunity to allow that to, based on the letter that the lady wrote to us, and since the two members of the Sales and Lease Committee declined to